Hey, 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 I'm Michelle.
And I'm Gretta.
We are girlfriends who have always been seekers. We love learning, sharing, and most of all, we love having those soul-to-soul moments with our girlfriends.
Our podcast is about spiritual connection and sisterhood. You are not alone. So grab your glass, get comfy, and join us as we make some noise, light up the room, and
Get into it.
Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for being part of our journey. I just have to start off by, let's just get real. I'm a fucking hot mess today, but we had this on the books to record today. So here I am. Anything can happen.
That's right, sister. Just show up as you are.
Yes. My period showed up this week and I don't know. Normally I'm really aware that it's coming and it was kind of just like, hello, I'm here to ruin your life. I mean, some months they're fine and I like just go on, with my life like it's not even happening. And then, this is one of the ones where I just have like no energy. Just doing my hair is like, I don't want to do my hair. I don't want to put my makeup on. I don't want to do anything. I just want to hibernate. And it made me think about, I don't know where I picked up this random information somewhere, but I remember hearing about Native American tribes viewing this time for women as a sacred time where they would nurture the woman. And I mean, I think in some tribes, it's when they're just, young girls are just getting their period for the first time. But I don't know. I haven't researched, could be that all women during this time, and I think that might be the case in certain tribes, are getting cared for and nurtured by the other women in the tribe. And I thought, that's what I need right now. I need to be nurtured. I need to be brought strawberries and on a platter. So it's so cool. This one tribe in particular, the Ojibwe tribe, they historically conducted a ritual for their girls. And this is where I came up with, they were being pampered and taken care of. And they saw it as this time of like great spiritual power, where these girls would receive messages and visions, and these stories were told by the elders within the community. And one story in particular is of this girl born in 1830, had a vision of a great bear. And it goes on to say that the bear was walking towards the girl. And as it did, it got smaller in size. And when it was right beside her, suddenly she became the bear. And she felt wonderful, powerful, and strong. She became known as Bear Woman. And it is said that she had a long life and overcame many challenges with a strong heart and the courage of a bear. And I love this because we are powerful spiritual beings, and this is a sacred time. And we're not meant to just, stick a cork in it, aka tampon, go on with your day, pop pills, pretend like you're fine. I'm not fine. I feel like very unhinged right now. So it is a sacred, emotional, raw time, and not to just like pretend like it's not happening and go about your day.
Totally. And, it's not being a bear in PMS. It's like, changing that perspective too, to be
right.
No, it's that power of who we are as women and how we were designed and how natural this process is.
Ooh, you just made me think of something.
What?
When you said the PMS thing,
yeah.
Like guys have such a fun time. That's been as long as I can remember. Oh, she's PMSing. Well, maybe it's because we need to be brought freaking strawberries on a platter.
That's right.
And nurtured, and not be having to just pretend like this is not happening to us.
Right. And, people being grossed out and pushing you away, or, how many girls have accidents at school?
Oh, I did.
What that feels like. It's humiliating. Mm-hmm. And why do we do that? This is something that is natural. And guess what? For all these men who do want to bash the PMS and all of that, you wouldn't be able to spread your, you
wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't be here. A, you wouldn't be here. And B, you would have no offspring if it weren't for this process. So we're
creating life over here.
Yeah.
Give us a break.
Why are we not tending to that in a more tender way. Like, what is that all about?
And believe it or not, this episode is not about periods.
I know, but gosh, can't we keep going? We can go on and on and on about periods. About the P word.
Yes. Well, and to change the subject real quick, I have to just talk about how much fun we had a couple days ago. We shot our cover. And hopefully when this is up, you're seeing it now. We had so much fun. Our very good friend, Angela Spiller, came over and, we drank whiskey and we got all disco glammed and
curlers in the hair.
Oh my gosh. I put sponge rollers in my hair and I had no idea how it was going to turn out.
But if you watch one of our videos, what did you post that on or going to post on TikTok?
Oh, yeah.
Or you'll see the unraveling,
yes,
right?
There's a reveal.
There's a reveal. And it was so fun. I mean, we're babies of the 70s.
Yeah. So why not, right?
Why not?
Celebrate our generation, it's late 70s, but still, we were born in the 70s, baby.
We can claim it.
Oh, we had a blast.
So fun. Today, though, what we really wanted to focus on was some talk about college. And part of that is because that's the season of life that you and I are actually both in right now. And you have a child who recently went off to college. I have a child who's gearing up, for application processes and things like that. And so much conversation that we've had has been about not just the step-by-step process of actually getting them enrolled in college, but also all the feelings and emotions and what
so many feels.
Let go. Yeah. So that's sort of our focus for today. When I really thought about the message though that I wanted to get across to those listening is one thing I love, Gretta, about, our conversations are they can be so raw and non-judgy. That's part of the richness of why we can talk about things so openly. But I think whatever path you choose and whatever path your child chooses is the best path for them. And I don't think either one of us are here to, push one way. What I love is that we explore alternative ways and know that, there are so many options out there. And that's what I'm learning is, whoa, I mean, you can go straight off to a 4-year, you can take an alternative route in terms of like doing JC and actually live on the campus. There's so many options. And the point isn't to explore them all, but we're here to just share some of our experiences.
And every family is different and every family's financial situation is different and every child is different. And so luckily there are so many options out there. It's not a one-stop shop.
Yeah. So I'm gearing up and it's funny because I remember talking to you last year and maybe even prior, and some of the emotions that were surfacing at that time. As a mother, I could understand what you were saying, but I wasn't feeling it yet. And guess what? It's happening. I mean, I'm doing some things now, like cleaning my son's room, which I always felt like that was his responsibility. But it's almost like this little thing I have about wanting to, I guess, nurture him potentially for the last time. I mean, I have no idea right now. We don't know if he's going to be going away or staying at home. And even when they go away, you don't know if they'll come back, if they're going to meet somebody, get a good job. Like, I have no idea what his path looks like. So there's these little things that are happening internally. And I'm just rolling with it. So maybe if you want to share some you experienced.
Yeah, you become highly aware that the clock is ticking. I mean, if you hadn't been already, it becomes like even more so that time is running out of your little time, sacred little special time with your family, that family unit. There's an expiration date on it is how it felt for me. It was like, wow, that's coming to a close.
I love that you said that because that's exactly what I'm feeling. It's like the clock is ticking. I'm watching the numbers move. And I've always been the kind of person that I loved my kids growing up. Like every new phase was like, yes, they're getting more independent. They're getting more of this and that. And I think, when I think about sending them off to school when they were babies, like little preschoolers, and they'd hold onto your leg and, I'd have to pry them off. And now I'm seeing this level of excitement to kind of flee the coop, if you will.
Yeah.
Fly the coop. I think that's the right term.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait. I mean, I was so excited for them to get there, but now I'm like, but hold on, the nest isn't fully finished yet.
It's like what happened all of a sudden. It just kind of, it's weird. It sneaks up on you, but it doesn't. I was probably depressed. I didn't realize it until I look back. That's always the way my depression works. I go, oh, I was mildly depressed. Interesting. Wish I would have known that then. I could have helped myself. But it's always, for me, it's always looking back that I see it. But for 3 years, I was like dreading and feeling that this was just fast approaching. And I wasn't I was in this battle with time, basically, which you're not going to win. No, time wins every time.
Just keeps going.
But then it got toward, the end, dun, dun, dun.
The end of a chapter.
Yeah, I think that's what it is just this realization that, life is not going to look the same. Your family dynamic is going to be different. I mean, now I'm home with our son who's 16 and our daughter is away. And it's, I knew it was coming and I was dreading it. But yes, there was this beautiful transition of watching her get excited. She went from, I never want to leave you, mommy, a few years ago, to then like she was ready. And what I was going to tell you is when you're seeing that excitement from your son, it means you did your job. It means like we are supposed to let them go, raise them up to let them go. And it's hard and it goes too fast. And I just, wanted more time. And I think you have all these little regrets of, I wish we would have done this more and that more, and more little coffee dates and family vacations. And yes, we are still a family and she is going to come home. I can't wait. Just in a couple weeks, she's going to drive up. And so that's going to be wonderful. But I think there's this awareness that I know that, eventually she will meet someone and family vacations are going to even look different and just, it's all different and change and it's scary. And
so one thing a term that came to me, which I often use in grief, which, we'll talk about grief on another cast.
Well, I think grief fits in here. And I speak about grief when it comes to your child.
Okay. So then
going to college.
It is appropriate. But I always think about this concept of this new normal. And I think that's what happens is we start to develop this new normal. And there's the time of trying to get used to that transition and what it looks like in our home where, it's a little quieter. You can feel like that energetic shift of this energy's not there anymore that used to occupy a space in the house. And all those things start to happen as we develop that new normal and this excitement now that comes in when they do come home or you have the FaceTime call. You hear the little stories and the new experiences that they're going through. So as you were talking, that's one of the things that came up strongly for me. It's like, oh, wait, you have to create this new normal.
And when I was talking about the last 3 years of being mildly depressed, I only recently, as I was planning her graduation party and couldn't even bring myself to go look through baby pictures to have at the graduation party. Like that was just too emotionally stressful for me. And I realized that about myself. So I didn't do it. I, at the last hour, found some that were just around the house and put them in frames and set them up. But to go through all her baby pictures was too emotionally draining for me at that time. So what I realized is I was grieving the loss of her childhood.
Yes. Makes so much sense.
It like just dawned on me. Oh, this is grief. So I love that you said that and connected the two.
So yes, this college experience, there's the grieving process, there's the excitement, there's a little bit of sadness, like there's so many feels wrapped up into all of it. And I know right now as we're exploring, what this application process looks like for us, I will say that it feels a little bit overwhelming for me right now just because I feel like there's some things that I was not on top of that probably should have started back in, the first year, 9th grade. What is that?
Freshman year.
So freshman year, you're starting to get bombarded with information. And I sort of, let my son handle all that. Like when he was even registering for classes in high school, I would check in, of course, and I went with him to some of the first meetings, but I sort of took a hands-off approach and he told me like, hey, I'm following the list. I've checked in with the counselor. He just happened to be that kind of kid. So I just stepped away from it. And I almost feel like I started doing that again with college, but I'm noticing that he needs a little extra assistance at this time. So
I think that's wonderful, though, in a lot of ways that you actually allowed your child to exercise his independence. I mean, how many of us don't do that? How many of us are overbearing, hand-holding, helicopter moms out there that don't let your child, draw upon their strengths, which he is independent. You've raised him to be like that. So it's a wonderful thing that you did, I think.
Yeah. Like now that I see him washing his own clothes and preparing his own meals and getting to work and doing all the things, I'm like, oh, okay, you might just be fine.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be more than fine. I think they surprise you.
I think so too. And so I think also like releasing some of that guilt of, what could I have done more of or paid more attention to?
No.
It's funny because sometimes I think like you had said about you might, have gone through a period of being depressed and don't realize it until you're out of it. And I think what's happening for me is I'm having some of these, reflections of coulda, shoulda, woulda done. Which I will release that quickly. It's going to go.
Let it go.
I'm going to let that go. Yeah. Like I'm just going to give it.
This is his journey. This was the way it was supposed to go.
Totally. I am a firm believer of that. Like I think that failures are part of our, mistakes, failures, lack of information. We always have another chance to turn that around and learn and gain and seek out different things.
Yeah.
So I know it's going to be fine, but here we are at this point in life where we're putting together an application. He chose not to take the SATs, which I've also learned recently that you don't have to. I think there might be some UC schools that require it and some of them are optional. So again, learning about how every school operates a little different, and a lot of things changed through COVID. So it used to be, you had to have a letter of recommendation. You had to have your SATs. You had to have, just different things. There's like a checklist of things, and that's shifted a bit now. So, an essay. That was the other thing. So anyway, here we are. We're about to fill out an application. We're looking into scholarships and grants. And by the way, what I would love to share with everyone is I'm learning that there are so many options out there. The schools now want to see a child in a more holistic light. And I know that sounds a little cliche, like we're all going holistic, right? In different ways, but that's really what's happening. That's the evolution of.
They want a well-rounded human out there.
They do.
In the world. And I think it's great. They're now, colleges are recognizing the benefit of a well-rounded whole child that is open to a lot of different experiences and not just academics.
And so, again, my message to those listening who might be going through this for the first time, it is just amazing how, sometimes things can look like we haven't crossed all the T's or dotted all the I's, and maybe we've missed out on opportunities. But we really haven't, because there are so many different ways to do things. And I think you just have to figure out, and like you said, Gretta, like every kid's different, every household's different. So figure out what works for you. And if you're not sure, there are tons of resources out there. So I have a friend who is actually guiding me through the process, and she hasn't even gone through it with her kids yet, but she's got a master's in education, and she used to work for nonprofits and is very well versed around just education and grants and scholarships. And it's a little bit of guidance, and it's keeping us on track, and it's making us feel confident in the process. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's important.
Yeah. Reach out to your girlfriends that have done it before. I definitely relied on girlfriends that had been on the path before me. I think it really helps because it does feel like you're just kind of in the dark at first when you're getting started, and you just don't want to. You don't want to fuck up. Like, you feel like this is your kid's life and it's in your hands, and you really have to make sure you know everything and help them and do everything. And it became a solid focus of mine for a greater part of her senior year. And we lost junior year because COVID. So it was like her middle part, sophomore year and junior year was pretty much sucked up with COVID. But I love the changes that came out of it. It's great for the kids that have test taking anxiety, and that doesn't necessarily prove their level of intelligence that they took the SAT out of the equation. I mean, it definitely still can help you if you're trying to get into a school that is very popular and there's high demand. That can be the thing that puts you over the edge if you got a good SAT score. But ultimately, we decided not to go that route. And I love where I think ultimately she ended up in exactly where she was supposed to. She's having an amazing experience so far. It's as hard as it was knowing that this change was coming, and I was not embracing this change at all earlier on. I mean, and it's amazing how much she changed from freshman year to senior, even from junior year to senior year. And definitely COVID probably delayed things a little bit because, we're all at home and not having our normal routine. But I think for my daughter, it actually heightened her high school experience, because when she went back in her senior year, and it was like her first normal year in 2 years, she fully embraced all that high school had to offer. And I don't think that she was really doing that before COVID. So I think she got an amazing senior year. I feel so heartbroken for all the kids that lost their senior year and maybe even their first year of college through COVID. Everybody kind of came out of that with all sorts of different struggles and experiences. But like I said, I think we all were given the journey that we're handed. That's what we're supposed to experience. So, but yeah, for her, senior year was great. I watched her completely transform and be so ready. And this is an interesting story. During the spring of her senior year, so last spring, this bird decided to make a nest right outside of our front door. And we're talking like eye level. I have this fountain that wasn't hooked up and just had spider webs in it. So then I decided to make it into a planter. And this has been like this for probably 3 or 4 years. A bird has never made a nest in it, but this year it did, this last spring. And at first we noticed this bird just like yelling at us every time we'd walk out our front door. And we're like, what the hell's going on? And then we see this nest. And just watch this bird's journey as she laid eggs and they hatched. And I just was so immersed in it. And with the timing of everything, I shared it with some other girlfriends, and they had said like similar things had happened to them during this process of literally watching your child fly the nest. And it was just kind of surreal, and it felt very on purpose and like something that this bird allowed me to be a part of her journey before I did it. So I watched her do it. I watched her work. She worked so hard to get these babies ready, feeding them morning, noon, and night. They were constantly squawking at her. It was like never enough. And then one by one, they flew off. And it was one of the babies, the last one to leave. It would like try to go one morning, and then nope, it was back in the nest. And then one morning I came out and it was gone. And it was just kind of an incredible witness to nature as I was going through this.
And so just symbolic, right? And
so symbolic, like very literal.
Yes. I mean, we want you to watch what you are going through right now, you know, in like through nature, like you said, through these birds.
Well, and not to get too off topic, but I've noticed, and maybe pay attention in your own life, I've noticed nature is talking to me, especially lately. And the more you connect, the more you are able to allow yourself to connect to it, the more messages you start to receive. And I think that's what's going on with me right now. And I freaking love it. It's
Can I also
awesome.
say though, I want to acknowledge that I also feel that when you become very present in life with what is happening in your world, that is, I think, when you become a little more aware of these things. So the fact that you've also done, you've done some work recently too, and based on some things that have happened in your life, you know, it's times when we start to retreat a little bit and really, allow ourselves to have those messages come in, right? Because I think when we get caught up in the busyness and the craziness of the world, you know, we miss out on all of these things. And, you know, there's been like some full moon stuff happening and, you know, harvest time right now. Like there are so many amazing things about just how our, you know, Earth and the planets and everything else work and align. And we've been, I think, playing around a little bit in like digging into those messages, right? And not ignoring them and going, hey, what is the universe trying to tell me right now? So I love that. And Gretta and I spend a lot of time, you know, when we find little messages, whether it's through a TikTok, whether it's something we saw outside, you know, we'll shoot each other a little text. And, you know, I think acknowledging that these things are happening and not ignoring them, because it really does give us that time to go deeper. And the fall is such a great time for that too, right? To just really get deeper and rooted. And so,
Yes, get grounded and kind of go into that hibernation of winter. That I keep hearing about that.
So if you haven't paid attention, start paying attention. That's one of the things about our podcast too, that it was so important when we were thinking about what are we going to talk about? Because we just want to talk about everything. But one of our main messages is just feeling like you have that, you know, connection and that togetherness with other women.
You might be sitting at home and you're having all of these feelings and basically mourning, grieving the loss of your child going to college. And you don't know what to do with these feelings. And I remember feeling very like alone in them and thinking, well, my husband would be like, oh my God, like, why are you making every vacation and every holiday and everything just like, this is the last time. This is the last time. And it's because I was in like this grieving process and I didn't understand it. And I didn't at that time have the words for it. And so maybe you're listening to this and you're having these feelings of like loss and regret and, you know, that just, I'm not ready, damn it. I'm not ready. That's how I felt a lot of the time. It's just like, I'm not ready to let her go. Like, it's not time. I want more time. And in this battle with time, like I said, and so you're not alone and your sadness is real and valid because you're going through something. It's a big deal. God gives us these babies and tells us, you know, everything in our bodies is like, we have to keep this baby alive. We have this outpouring of love like we've never felt before. And we just become so immersed in a good, healthy way, right? That's part of nature. It's part of how we can raise them up to go out into the world eventually. But then there comes this time where it's like, nope, they're out. They're gone. They're going to college. Your time is done and you've done everything you can and it's over is how it feels, like very final. But my friends who have kids that are older say they do come back. They come back more often than not. And it's not over. It's not final. It's going to look a little different.
I even remember, you know, when my son first started driving. And I remember I was so excited for him to get his license. And it was like, yes, you're moving into this other phase of independence. And then there was the selfish part. Like, I can have you pick up your sisters. I can have you go to the store. Yeah. Like whatever I need, that felt so good. But then, those first few times he was out just a little bit longer. It was
the panic.
Oh my gosh, where is he? What is he doing? And is he going to get home safely? And are the other drivers, aware that he's on the road? And all those things that would come up, I almost equate this to that, like what's happening in this college experience.
Well, you're letting them go.
We talked about safety issues. We've talked, like when you think about driving, right? Okay, we're driving around and you're pointing out all the things that can happen, and then they step in and they're in the driver's seat. You're in that passenger seat.
Give up control.
And you're giving up a little bit of that control, even though that like safety foot, keeps wanting to hit the brake, or that arm wants to like hold them back when, we have to do a hard stop. All those things are happening. And it to me, it's feeling like this experience is what's happening again.
Yes. But even on a more larger level, because you really will have absolutely no fucking control at all. Like, they're just in the wind, making decisions, and hopefully good ones, but you don't know. And sometimes they're going to be shitty ones probably. And it's part of their growing up experience, and they're supposed to have that. And it made me think about how, the toddler years were so hard, right? You just it was nonstop, and they were constantly doing things that could hurt themselves, and some more than others. My son was so accident, danger. I just wanted to wrap him up. But I would always hear people say that the teenage years are hard, but in a different way. And I think that that's what they mean. It's when they're toddlers, you have total control. And that can feel exhausting because you're constantly, it's up to you to keep them alive and keep them safe. And then when they become teenagers, it's you have to give up that sort of same control that you're hardwired with to keep them alive. You have to let go. And it's what the fuck? I have to let this go?
I just had this visual of remember before the kid could actually talk and they'd have this major tantrum, and you're at the store and they're freaking out and they're throwing themselves around, and you have a certain amount of control, but not total control, because you're just what the fuck are you doing right now? That almost feels how it feels when they start to go away, right? Is I have some control, but yet this whole freak out thing you're doing,
I can't make them stop. You actually make them stop. Right.
I don't know. It's a weird, I just
stop growing.
Have this whole visual of you still do have a little bit in terms of if you're paying for stuff. I can take that, I can say, hey, guess what? You're not getting a check next week. Bring your ass home.
That's the one thing I have right now with her in college.
That's what all the parents keep telling me is that is the only piece really of control we have, is that financial piece, right?
Yeah. I thought I could just stalk her on Life 360 and that would be awesome. But my husband tells me, no, I need to not do that. I am grateful for him. We have balance in our relationship because of this. I think women just experience this all a little differently than husbands. So I am grateful. He's you need to, stop stalking our daughter. She is an adult and, she's just going to start shutting her phone off. She's going to be over your shit.
Well, and I will say, I was talking to another friend of mine who's gone through this with her son, and he chose to stay home and do the junior college route. And she did say that was a whole struggle around having this man child, this adult that's in your home. And they're not coming home at night, or, they're gone all day. And you're wait, there's this weird boundary issue.
Oh, yeah.
And this what control do you have? I mean, they're in your home, but they are an adult. I mean, there's so many factors.
I experienced that exact thing this summer before we took her to college, and it was weird. So she had turned 18 and she was, like I said, her senior year, and that summer it was just everything it was supposed to be. It was great. And I was so happy she was embracing it. But there was times where I'm she's not home yet. Where is she? Go to my stalker app, but, it was difficult because you were well, where's the boundary? In a minute, she's going to be in college and I'm not going to be you need to be home at this time. And so there was this letting go before I fully let go thing. And it is a strange in limbo phase as a parent when your child is an adult, but lives at home. And that was just, a couple months. That was over summer. And I would think that would be very challenging to have them under your roof and yet still try to give them their adult freedom, but have your rules and your, respect intact.
Yes. And again, like every kid's so different, right? So there may be some that just on their own are home early, doing all the things they need to be doing. And you're kind of in this hands-off approach because that's just the child you have.
Yeah.
And then there's the ones that you see them kind of coming out of the cocoon, and wanting to explore more. And
you don't want them just to sit at home and not have life experiences. You want them to go out and have adventures, and that's how we grow. But you just pray that they do it in a careful way. And it brings me to this quote that I heard from Jordan Peterson that says, you have to allow children to do dangerous things carefully. And as long as they are, you need to let them do it. And it's like, that goes all the way back to when they're toddlers, if they're like crossing a creek or something and they're stepping carefully on the stones, everything in you wants to like scoop them up and just carry them across the creek. But you have to allow them, or climbing the jungle gym. I remember my daughter doing that and realizing that she was being very careful. And definitely I was behind her, spotting her and watching her every move, but I let her do it all by herself. And she was good at telling me, I want to do it all by myself, mommy, back off. But I think it just, as we had to do that when they were little, we have to do that when they go away and they're becoming adults. And it is so fucking scary and terrifying when, I'm seeing on the little app that she's not home yet. She's not back in her dorm. And I'm just like, where is she? I hope she's with someone that's safe, or, that she's with the right people and she's protected. And I have no way of really knowing. And that's the point. Like, I've raised her to make good choices and be an adult, and now she's flying.
Totally. And so I have two things that just came up. One is, gosh, I just love that quote because I really do think that, as our kids are in our home, like this is their training ground, right? And this is where they get to learn how to make those mistakes, and we are still there to help them through. And so like, why not loosen the leash a little bit? Right?
Yeah.
Like, why not give them a little bit of space to do that?
Definitely. Do it before they're just leaving for college.
Right.
Let them make those choices carefully.
Totally. And I know, like, even when things have come up, conflict or just circumstances that happen that we have to deal with as parents, in the moment, it feels so hard. But then sometimes I just kind of look back and I go, you know what? I'm glad that happened because I was still here to influence and guide. And even though they're still like, this is your challenge. You know what I mean? Like, it's not mine. This is your challenge. You chose that, or you did that. You fell off the monkey, whatever it was. Yeah. You fell off the monkey bars. Like, okay, so, but how do I come in now and teach, And I think I try to take that approach.
Make it a lesson.
Make it a lesson. This is what you did, but these are our moments to teach, right? Ooh, and then I had a second thing that came. Oh, I know. I guess I wanted to ask you, like, what would maybe two things. So what's your advice to parents who are going through this right now in terms of taking care of, so this bleeds into the second part, in terms of taking care of yourself. So how do you release some of those worries and concerns and maybe those thoughts and feelings about like not just reaching for the phone and watching, the apps that help us to track.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh. I honestly felt like I was getting off a drug or something. I had to wean myself off the app. And thankfully, my husband made me even aware that I was using it as a coping mechanism for her not being under our roof anymore. And so, as helpful and awesome as that app is, our parents didn't have that. We were in the wind. Like they didn't know where we were.
Lucky.
There's a lot of jokes about we were dying in a field and they didn't know.
Well, and they were lucky if we like text them or they text us a little message and we actually picked up the phone and called them because that's how it was during our day.
Page?
Page.
Pager.
Oh my gosh.
We're
text
old.
to the pager. You're right. It's a page. But yes, you would get that like, hi, or I don't know, whatever their phone number. And you'd have to go and pick up a phone and call them back. Like
I didn't even have that. I was in the wind. I mean, it was a good time to be alive.
Oh
girlfriend.
yeah, right.
I was in the wind.
Lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, so I know what you're saying because, with my son driving, I feel like I'm addicted to the Life 360 app.
Yeah.
That's what I'm using. And it is. It's like sometimes I just have it sitting there and I'm just.
It's almost worse because you can follow their every move. And it's like at some point, our parents just had to accept that we were individuals and that hopefully they taught us everything we needed to know and we were going to make good decisions, and they had to like let us go. And when we have this app, it's like another way to have control and to be informed about their life. And yeah, I mean, I love it.
So
I'm glad I have it, but it also is kind of a curse at the same time.
And I totally understand completely. So then did you just like make a little agreement with yourself? Like, I'm only going to look at this 3 times a day, or like, what did you do?
Yeah, I would. Well, I'd like look at it, maybe once before I would go to bed at night, just to be like, okay, is she back at the dorm or is she still out? And then I can't lie and say I didn't look at it again if I woke up in the middle of the night, but I got better at just kind of like allowing myself to be able to fall asleep, not knowing if she was back at the dorm or not, which was really, really hard. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, and then it's gotten less and less and less. And now, I'll wake up first thing in the morning and look, and it's like, oh, she got in at 2:30. Oh my God. But she's good. And it's just been like a weaning. Just making sure I didn't have anything really specific. But it was just, I knew every impulse to look at it, I started to deny myself that, so I would have the impulse, but I'm not going to pick it up. I'll look at it before I go to bed kind of thing.
Okay. And then what about just what did you do in terms of reducing, the anxiety or working through the anxiety or stress of, the thoughts that might come through, or, like, do you have any self-care tips of things
I wish
that you
I did. I think for me, it was just I'm a big believer in, our thoughts are very powerful and being aware of our thoughts. So I started being aware of my thoughts I've been working on it. I think it's a work in progress, but for the last 10 years, I've been working on being aware of my thoughts. And I would recognize that when I started having those downward spiral thoughts that I needed to put a stop to it because they're not healthy. They're not actually, worrying is not actually doing anything positive. It's not doing anything but causing me distress. And so it really was just mental strength and a decision and years of working on my awareness of thoughts. So I'm not saying it's easy, but when you do become aware of the negative thought, telling it to stop and that it's not helpful is really what I relied on during this time.
I love that. And so any advice to parents? I think just, parents who are going through this, like words of wisdom.
I think just have faith in your child. Which in turn has faith in you because you were a good mom or dad and you did everything that you could we may even feel like we didn't do everything. You can't possibly do everything. But when you have faith in your child and allow them to just fully be themselves, you're allowing them to grow and be complete and whole adults. And that's really the ultimate goal. So I think it's important to realize that your role as a caregiver changes, and there's different hats that we have to take off and put on during this whole process of being a parent from newborn to adulthood. And it's really wise to pay attention to when to take off those hats and transition into your next phase of being a parent. So it's going to look different. You allowing yourself to give up that control is crucial to them being able to thrive. Otherwise, you're just hindering them. You're stopping them from reaching their full potential.
I think the message I would like to send to those who have children who are in high school and maybe gearing up for their senior year or before, try not to get overwhelmed. There's so much information out there. And I think the same message that you said in terms of having faith in your child, it's their journey, it's their path. And I know we so want our children to succeed and be independent. And I think they all have different timelines in that too. Like some are ready to just 18, boom, I'm out of here. And they're so confident and they're out of the house for good. Like you don't see them anymore, right? And then there are those children who they're just not ready yet. And so I feel like really just trying to understand where your child is. And although sometimes, yes, they need a little push, I think we also need to honor them where they are. And so
like the little bird that wasn't quite ready and then went back in the nest. Right.
Hey, come back for a minute and, get what you need. And then so maybe that looks like staying home, during and taking 2 years at junior college. Maybe that means going to a trade school first. There's so many different avenues. And so I guess that's my message is, let's try to just not pressure them to be what society thinks they should be.
Or what we didn't have that we want. I had to take a step back when it came to that. So, and just really allow your child to show you what they want out of life.
Explore, ask questions, talk to people who have maybe done it. My friend that's working with me, she said something to our family where she goes, this talk about college should really be like a discussion amongst the family, not like a directive of,
this is what you're doing.
Yes. And it's like, you're right. And as, and hey, part of the conversation we had with my son, of course it always starts like, well, what do you want your major to be? Or what do you think you want to do? When you grow up. And he's like, I don't know. And it's like, okay.
I love that answer. How do we expect them to know? Right.
And we don't. Right. And I go, okay. I was different because I had some decisions made up in my mind about what I wanted to do in life, but that's me, right? So I had to accept this. I don't know.
Yeah, I had no idea. And I remember everybody asking me that. And I was like, I don't fucking have a clue. I'm 18. I don't know.
Yes. And so then the conversation became,
I still don't know.
Right? I know.
Still just figuring it out.
I want to do it all. See, my thing was always like, I'm doing everything. So I'm enrolling in that and that and that, and I'm going to do everything.
Same.
So he, part of the conversation that became like, what are you interested in? Like, what piques your curiosity in life? That's a
great topic. That's a good conversation.
So it became more of that.
Yeah. And I think that's also the beauty of just going away to college. You can slap whatever major you want on there. I know it's difficult to kind of change it later, but you can. And just being exposed to so much, allowing them to, kind of come up with, decide who they are and releasing like that control of, I know we are not like that, but there's a lot of families that are like, you need to go this route and you're failing if you don't. And then you've got all these kids out there that are really miserable, but they're making a great income. They have a very nice car and a very nice house, but they hate their life. And it's like, I really ultimately just want my kids to find something they enjoy doing so that, that saying, you find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's ultimately the goal, right?
Yeah, good point. I love that you brought that up because that is truth. That is speaking truth of, what is it what are we, this is a deeper conversation, but it's like, what are we ultimately seeking in life? Why are we here? What's our purpose? You can't answer that at 17. You can't answer that at 18 years old. You might have a pretty strong sense of who you are and like what you're doing at that time in your life, but oh my gosh, like the world opens up so much larger, like when you are out of the four walls of your home and you get to make decisions. So Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know.
So you don't want to take that away from them. Yeah.
Take that away. You know, that is part of our life exploration and finding who we are. Right. I mean, and so it all starts with this question, like, who do you want to be? And right now, you know, and kids are like, I don't know.
I do want to share one last little tidbit that might be helpful. So, you know, as I was weaning myself off of the Life 360 app, it would kill me. Like the first couple of weeks, she just really wasn't texting me or like texting me back or calling me. And then all of a sudden, the calls, the FaceTiming started happening, and I would just drop everything and, you know, sit there and have this like one-on-one time with my girl. And so don't get discouraged if in the beginning, I think she was trying to get her bearings, and I think she was very probably socially drained of just, you know, having roommates for the first time and all of that. So just don't get discouraged if you don't hear from them in the beginning. They do come around. So, and
good message to end on all the way around, right? Like, don't get discouraged.
Don't get discouraged by any of it.
Any of this.
Whatever connection you have built with over the life, you know, time of your child, it will stand the test of time and distance, and you will have that connection. It just looks a little different, but you'll have it still.
You may still cry when you get your period, and it may still feel extra in those moments, but you know what? It is what it is, and just honor that, you know, and honor all these phases as women and respect and appreciate them for what they are. You know, to go full circle with the, you know, my horrible morning this morning with my period, and then, you know, even the talk of college and letting my daughter go. It's like all of these experiences that we have as women, they are a big deal, and we should allow ourselves to have that time to nurture ourselves through it. And I think a lot of times there's this idea that we need to like toughen up and just get through it, and this is just the way it is. And I think it's okay to allow ourselves that time for nurturing and just realizing that it is a big deal and it is hard, but we can do it. Can do it. That's my girl. We always do it. That's right.
Well, many blessings to you on your journey with your children, or even if you haven't even had children yet. My hope is that in hearing this, you just know that there's other women going through it and you're not alone. As always, that's our hope for our listeners. You're not alone.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you liked what you heard and we're your girls,
please share and add a review on iTunes so we can continue to grow our circle. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at That's My Girl Podcast.